Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I'm Atika Tajdar from Department of Geography, Jamia Millia Islamia. Today we'll discuss about policy planning issues and institutional framework in disaster management. India is vulnerable to a large number of natural as well as man-made disasters of varying magnitudes. It is significant that disaster management is not mentioned in any of the three lists of the Constitution's 7th schedule like Union, State and concurrent list. However, certain landmark decisions and programs have given disaster management the necessary focus and substance in our country. To stitch up the loose ends, various initiatives have been taken up to fix the responsibility and accountability of stakeholders, and therefore proper institutional mechanism is established in India to manage disaster effectively at all levels. Emergence of policy planning issues at the international level in 1989, the UN General Assembly declared the decade of 1999 and 2000 as the International Decade for Natural Disaster Reduction. The objective of International Decade for Natural Disaster Reduction were to reduce the loss of lives, damages of properties as well as social and economic disruption caused due to the natural disasters, especially in developing countries. It was targeted that by the year 2000, all countries must have comprehensive national assessments of risk from natural hazards, mitigation plan involving prevention, preparedness and community awareness, and ready access to global, regional, national and local warning system and widespread dissemination of such warnings. In 1994, a conference of IDNDR was held in Yokohama, Japan, in which plan of action was formulated to have paradigm shift from culture of response and relief to culture of prevention, mitigation and preparedness. It was known as Yokohama Strategy. In the year 2000, a historical decision was taken. United Nations formulated the International Strategy for Disaster Risk Reduction, which aimed to provide a global framework in order to foster resilience of communities to the effect of natural hazards through the implementation of risk management, hazards, mitigation and sustainable development. In 2005, World Conference on Disaster Reduction was held in Kobe, Hyogo, Japan, wherein Hyogo Framework for Action 2005 to 2015 was formulated. The main objective of this conference were to review the Yokohama strategy and its plan of action, to share good practices and lessons learned and to identify gaps and challenges, to increase awareness of the importance of disaster reduction policies and to increase the reliability and availability of appropriate disaster-related information to the public and disaster management agencies in all regions. The plan of action of Hyogo framework was to ensure that disaster risk reduction is a national and local priority with a strong institutional basis for implementation. To identify, assess and monitor disaster risk and enhance early warning, use knowledge, innovation and education to build a culture of safety and resilience. To identify, assess and monitor disaster risk and enhance early warning, use knowledge, innovation and education to build a culture of safety and resilience at all levels. Reduce the underlying risk factor and strengthen disaster preparedness for effective response at all levels. The Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction 2015 to 2030 set 4 priorities for action like understanding disaster risk, strengthening disaster risk governance to manage disaster risk, investing in disaster risk reduction for resilience, and enhancing disaster preparedness for effective response and to build back better in recovery, rehabilitation and reconstruction. By 2030, the Sendai framework aimed to achieve substantial reduction of disaster risk and losses in life, livelihood and health and in the economic, physical, social, cultural and environmental assets of person, business, communities and countries. Policy planning and institutional framework at national level in the decade of 1990s, a permanent and institutional set up for disaster management began as a cell under the Ministry of Agriculture following the declaration of International Decade for Natural Disaster Reduction by the UN General Assembly. Following series of disasters such as Latur earthquake in 1993, Malpa landslide in 1994, Odisha super cyclone in 1999, and High Powered Committee HPC was constituted under the chairmanship of Sri J.C. Pant, Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, for drawing up a systematic, comprehensive and holistic approach towards disasters. The report of HPC mentioned the need of shift in policy from a relief-centric approach to holistic disaster management approach focusing early warning, mitigation and preparedness measures. After Bhuj earthquake in 2001, the Disaster Management Division was shifted under the Ministry of Home Affairs in 2002, while Cabinet Secretariat's notification and the institutional framework in hierarchical structure for disaster management evolved in India. At present, the nodal ministry in the central government for the management of natural disaster in the Ministry of Home Affairs. Following the report of high-powered committee on disaster management for establishment of a separate institutional structure pertaining to addressing disasters and enactment of a suitable law for institutionalizing disaster management in the country, a multi-level links between different ministries and the disaster management framework was emerged. The present setup is multi-stakeholder involving various ministries, departments and administrative bodies which function at the four levels: center, state, district and local. When calamity of severe nature occurs, the central government is responsible for providing aid and assistance to the affected states, including deploying of armed forces, central paramilitary forces, national disaster response force and such communication, air and other assets as they are available and needed at the state's request. Central government also ensure that all ministry and department integrate measures for the prevention and mitigation of disaster into their developmental planning and project, make appropriate allocation of fund for pre-disaster requirement and take necessary measure for preparedness and to effectively respond to any disaster situation. If required, central government also facilitate coordination with UN agencies, international organizations and governments of foreign countries in the field of disaster management. From time to time, central government also establish hazard-specific nodal ministries department to function as leading agency for particular disasters. Disaster Management Act 2005. The Disaster Management Act 2005 was passed by the Rajya Sabha on 28 November and by the Lok Sabha on 12 December 2005. It received the assent of the President of India on 23 December 2005. The Disaster Management Act 2005 has 11 chapters and 79 sections that extend to the whole of India. The Act provides for the effective management of disasters and for matter connected therewith or incidental threat. The Act lays down institutional, legal, financial and coordinated mechanism for disaster management at the national, state, district and local levels through National Disaster Management Authority, State Disaster Management Authority and District Disaster Management Authority. These institutions are not parallel structure but work in close harmony as and when need arises. National Disaster Management Authority. National Disaster Management Authority or NDMA is the apex body of disaster management with the Prime Minister of India as the chairperson. The aim of the establishment of National Disaster Management Authority is to build a safer and disaster resilient India by developing a holistic, proactive, multi-disaster and technology-driven strategy for disaster management. NDMA, which was initially established on 30th May 2005 by an executive order, was constituted under Section 3(1) of the Disaster Management Act on 27 September 2006. The authority has 9 members, reduced to 4 now, board including a vice chairperson. The remainder of the board consists of members nominated based on their expertise in areas such as planning, infrastructure management, communication, meteorology and natural sciences. The tenure of the member of the NDMA shall be 5 years. The NDMA is responsible for laying down the policy, plans and guidelines for disaster management and to ensure timely and effective response to disaster. It has also approved the National Disaster Management Plan and looks after the DM plan of central ministries or departments. Under Section 6 of the Act, it is also responsible for laying down guidelines to be followed by the state authorities in drawing up the state plan. NDMA is operationally organized into 5 divisions: policy and planning, mitigation, operation and communication, administration and capacity building. NDMA formulate guidelines and facilitate training and preparedness activities in respect of CBRN emergencies. Other cross-cutting themes like medical preparedness, psychosocial care and trauma, awareness generation, etc. are also looked after the NDMA along with concerned stakeholders. NDMA also oversees the provision and application of funds for mitigation and preparedness measures. National Executive Committee under Section 8 of the Disaster Management Act 2005, the central government has constituted a National Executive Committee to assist the National Disaster Management Authority in discharging its function and also to ensure compliance of the direction issued by the central government. NEC comprises of the Union Home Secretary as chairperson and secretarial level officer of the Government of India in the ministries or Department of Agriculture, Atomic Energy, Defense, Drinking Water Supply, Environment and Forest, Finance, Health, Power, Rural Development, Science and Technology, Space, Telecommunication, Urban Development, Water Resources, and the Chief of the Integrated Defense Staff of the Chiefs of the Staff Committee as members. The National Executive Committee works as a coordinating and monitoring body for disaster management under the guidelines of NDMA, beside being responsible for the preparation of the National Disaster Management Plan based on national policy on disaster management and to ensure that it is reviewed and updated annually. The committee also provides necessary technical assistance to the state government and the state authorities for preparing their disaster management plan, etc. National Institute of Disaster Management, also called NIDM. The Section 42 of the Disaster Management Act 2005 enforced the establishment of National Institute of Disaster Management. The main focus of NIDM is capacity building along with training, research, documentation and development of national level information base. NIDM work in partnership with other research institutions within the bold policies. NIDM work in partnership with other research institutions within the broad policies and guidelines laid down by the NDMA. National Disaster Response Force. Under Chapter 7, Section 44-45 of the Disaster Management Act, the National Disaster Response Force, also called NDRF, has been constituted for the purpose of specialist response to threatening disaster situation or disaster. The NDRF is multidisciplinary, multi-skilled, high-tech force capable to tackling all types of natural and man-made disasters. It works under the leadership of Director General appointed by the central government. But the general superintendence, direction and control of this force vested in and exercised by NDMA. This force is one of its kind of single largest stand-alone disaster response force in the world. Presently, there are 12 battalions in the country located at Guwahati, Assam, Nadia, West Bengal, Odisha, Vellore in Tamil Nadu, Pune in Maharashtra, Gandhinagar in Gujarat, Bhatinda in Punjab, Ghaziabad in UP, Patna in Bihar, Guntur in Andhra Pradesh, Varanasi in UP, and Itanagar in Arunachal Pradesh. The battalion of NDRF are composed from 3 border security force, 3 central reserve police force, 2 central industrial security force, 2 Indo-Tibetan border police and 2 Sashastra Seema Bal, which is also called SSB. Each battalion has 18 self-contained special search and rescue team of 45 personnel, each including engineer, technician, electrician, dog squads and medicos or paramedics. NDRF, in addition to being able to respond to natural disaster, has 4 battalions capable of responding to radiological, nuclear, biological and chemical disaster. NDRF unit maintain close liaison with the designated state government and are available to them in the event of any series NDRF unit maintain close liaison with the designated state governments and are available to them in the events of any serious threatening disaster situation. National Advisory Committee. The Section 7 of Disaster Management Act 2005 deal with the formation of National Advisory Committee, also called NAC. The committee is constituted under the supervision of Chairman NDMA. The committee includes experts, scientists and researchers having practical experience of disaster management at the national, state or district level. The committee prepares research-based recommendations on different aspects of disaster management and also gives advice to NDMA regarding formulation of policy at central and state level. High-level committee. The High-Level Committee, also called the HLC, is comprised of Finance Minister as the Chairman and the Home Minister, Agriculture Minister and Deputy Chairman of Planning Commission as member. The Vice Chairman NDMA is the special invitee to HLC. In case of calamities of severe nature, interministerial central team are deputed to the affected state for assessment of damage caused by the calamity and the amount of relief assistance required. The interministerial group, which is also called IMG, is headed by the Union Home Secretary, who recommend the quantum of assistance to be provided to the state from National Calamity Contingency Fund. The damage assessment of drought, hailstorm and pest attack is headed by Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperation. The committee review and approve the central assistance to be provided to the affected state based on the recommendation of IMG. The National Calamity Contingency Fund, also called NCCF, which was created in 2000-2001 by the Government of India with an objective of providing assistance to disaster affected state, has been merged with National Disaster Response Fund since 2010. Is now operated by a high-level committee. National Crisis Management Committee, also called NCMC. The National Crisis Management Committee is headed by Cabinet Secretary of the Government of India. NDMA is mandated to deal with all the types of disaster, natural and man-made. Whereas such other emergency of national level, including those requiring close involvement of the security force and or intelligence agency like terrorism, law and order situation, serial bomb blast, hijacking, air accident, CBRN, weapon system, mine disaster, port and harbor emergencies, forest fire, oil field fire and oil spills are handled by the National Crisis Management Committee. It is supported by the Crisis Management Group, also called CMG, of the Central Nodal Ministry and assisted by NEC as and when necessary. The Crisis Management Group is headed by the Central Relief Commissioner. Institutional framework at the state level. The responsibility of disaster management in India's federal system is that of the state government, whereas the central government play a supporting role. The Disaster Management Act 2005 has earmarked the responsibility of a state government to handle the disasters with more efficiency to minimize the loss. State Disaster Management Authority, also called SDMA. All the state governments are mandated under Section 14 of the Disaster Management Act to establish a State Disaster Management Authority. The Chief Minister of the state is the chairperson of SDMA and the other 8 members are appointed by the Chief Minister. One of these members is designated as Vice Chairman. The SDMA is mandated under Section 28 to ensure that all the departments of the state prepare disaster management plan as prescribed by the national and state authorities. SDMA lays down policies and plan for DM in the state. It also coordinates the implementation of the state plan, recommend provision of fund for mitigation and preparedness measure and review the developmental plan of the different departments to ensure the integration of prevention, preparedness and mitigation measures. The State Disaster Mitigation Fund is available with SDMA. State Executive Committee To assist and support SDMA, the concerned state government constituted a State Executive Committee, also called SEC, under Section 22 of Disaster Management Act 2005. The Chief Secretary of the state government is the chairman of SEC. The committee has to prepare the state disaster management plan, which would include the assessment of vulnerability of different parts of the state to different forms of disasters, measures to be adopted for prevention and mitigation of disasters, capacity building, and role of Department of State Government. Apart from the planning aspect, it is also involved in taking up and supervising relief and rescue operation at the time of disaster and in disseminating information about the impending disaster. SEC also coordinates and monitors the implementation of the National Policy on Disaster Management 2009, National Plan and State Plan, and also provide information to NDMA related to different aspects of disaster management. At the state level, the Calamity Relief Fund (CRF) is replaced by State Disaster Response Fund, which is SDRF, constituted under Section 48(1)(a) of Disaster Management Act 2005 and is available to the State Executive Committee. District Disaster Management Authority. At the district level, the structure of disaster management institutions goes down to the district level, where the District Disaster Management Authority is formulated under Section 25 of the Disaster Management Act 2005. The chairperson of District Disaster Management Authority (DDMA) is the District Collector of District Magistrate or Deputy Commissioner, as the case may be, with the elected representative of the local authority as an ex officio co-chairperson. The DDMA acts as the planning, coordinating and implementing body for disaster management at the district level. It prepares the district disaster management plan and ensures that the guidelines laid by NDMA and SDMA for prevention, mitigation, preparedness and response measures are followed by all the departments at the district level. It also monitors the implementation of the national policy, state policy, national plan, state plan and district plan. The District Disaster Response Fund and District Disaster Mitigation Fund are available with the DDMA. Local authorities. The local authority ensures the capacity building of their officers and employees for managing disaster, carrying relief, rehabilitation and reconstruction activities in the affected areas. Local authorities include Panchayati Raj institutions, municipalities, district and cantonment boards, town planning authorities which control and manage civic services. Institutional arrangement for disaster impacting more than one state. In case of disaster affecting more than one state, the management of such situation would be done through establishment of mechanism in lines of mutual aid agreement for coordinated strategies dealing with them by the state, central and ministry. In case of disasters affecting more than one state, the management of such situation would be done through establishment of mechanism in lines of mutual aid agreement for coordinated strategies dealing with them by the state, central ministries and department and other agencies concerned. Other institutional arrangement for disaster management. Under the special circumstances where the civil administration is unable to manage the disaster situation, the other forces like army, central paramilitary forces, etc. are mobilized to assist and manage the situation. In practice, however, the armed forces form an important part of the government response capacity and are immediate responders in all serious disaster situations. They also play major role in emergency support function like communication, search and rescue operation, medical facilities and transportation. Central paramilitary forces also play a key role at the time of immediate response to disasters. Besides contributing to the NDRF, they are also required to develop adequate disaster management capability. Besides contributing to the NDRF, they are also required to develop adequate disaster management capability within their own forces and response to disaster which may occur in the areas where they are posted. State police and fire services are other vital responders to disaster. In 2009, Civil Defense Act is amended to bring disaster management in the area of operation of civil defense agencies. Thank you.